I never thought my career as a forensic accountant would come back to me in my backyard. But life has the tendency to surprise you. When I moved to Oak Ridge Estates 3 years ago, I was merely looking for a quiet place to settle down after a decade of helping corporates and law enforcement agencies track financial criminals. Little did I know I'd be using the same expertise right where I lived. It all started when Karen Wilkins took over as president of our HOA from day one. She ruled our community with an iron fist, handing out violation notices for grass, a half-inch too tall, and catching residents for having the wrong shade of beige on their mailboxes. Most people just paid up to avoid confrontation, but something about the increasing number of these fines didn't sit right with me. "You need to paint your front door immediately," Karen said one Saturday morning. As I was grabbing my newspaper, she stood in my driveway in her signature pose clipboard at the ready oversized sunglasses perched on her nose, and that blonde bob haircut that seemed cut with mathematical precision. "Good morning to you too, Karen," I replied with politeness. "What's the problem with my door? It's the exact shade of mahogany specified in the HOA rules." Karen scoffed, pounding her pen against her clipboard with irritation. "The board has updated the approved color scheme. You have 14 days to comply or face a $300 fine," she said with superiority that left no question. She enjoyed sharing this news. I read the notice she shoved into my hand. I don't recall receiving any notice of a change in policy. When was this voted on? We don't need to notify citizens of every little thing. That's why you voted for a board. She dismissed the new rules are in the HOA office, because Karen stormed away to terrorize my neighbors. I couldn't help thinking that things didn't quite add up. The following day, I went to our HOA office to review the new rules and request copies of recent board meeting minutes. What I found, or should say what I did not find, immediately raised some red flags. No vote had been recorded for the color palette upgrade, and the financial report indicated a gigantic jump in fines, received with no associated expenditure on community improvements over the course of the next few weeks. I began in secret gathering data. Our HOA dues increased 20% in the past year for community improvements. But our neighborhood pool still had the same crack tiles. And the planned playground renovation never materialized when I requested copies of contractor bids and receipts. Karen personally called me. "Why are you requesting all of these documents?" She insisted, her voice biting with suspicion. "The board takes care of financial oversight. Residents don't have to worry about these things." I maintained my tone neutral in spite of her hostility. As a homeowner paying higher fees, I have a right to see how our money is being spent. It's actually required in the HOA bylaws. Section 4.3, there was a silence on the line. "Fine, I'll have some simple documents drawn up, but this is a waste of everyone's time," she said, with obvious annoyance. 3 days later, I received a manila envelope containing what can only be described as financial gobbledygook incomplete statements, redacted vendor names, and neatly round numbers with no supporting documentation. Now, my professional antennae were in high alert. This was not just petulant power tripping. This had all the signs of financial impropriety. I asked around among other residents and discovered that I was not alone in my suspicions. Tom from down the street had been fined for a rental infraction. Despite having no renters, Maria's yard landscaping had been approved and then suddenly deemed non-compliant when completed, resulting in excessive fines. And everyone's dues were rising, and services were degrading when I started asking more pointedly at our monthly HOA meeting. Karen's reply said it all. I moved to adjourn for time considerations. She revealed suddenly when I asked why the 3 different landscaping companies listed in our expenses, none of which anyone had ever seen operating in our area. We've only advanced half the agenda I brought forward, and we still haven't addressed the financial matters. From a group of residents, Karen's face had turned bright red. These are procedural matters which must be brought in writing. Not wasting everybody's evening meeting adjourned, she declared, banging her gavel with emphasis, without making eye contact with anyone in the room that weekend. I made the decision to place my professional skills to work. I reached out to a few former board members and concerned neighbors, and we formed a small investigative committee using public records and the fragmentary documents we had. I began piecing together the HOA's real financial situation. The further I went, the worse it got. Around $130,000 had been paid to vendors that either didn't exist or had ties to Karen's personal business. We were preparing to take our findings to the authorities when things took a turn. For the worse, I came home from work to find a notice of violation taped to my door, informing me that I was operating an illegal diversion for my residents, a completely fabricated charge. The fine was exorbitant at $2,000, with a notation that non-compliance would yield a lien on my property. The next morning, I filed a formal appeal and request for hearing, as was my right under the bylaws. Karen called me almost immediately. "Drop this ridiculous investigation you're doing. Pay your fine and we can forget about this whole thing," she said in an ominous tone. "Or things will get quite uncomfortable for you in this neighborhood." I couldn't help but smile, although she couldn't see it on the phone. "Karen, are you threatening me since I've requested financial transparency from our HOA board?" "I'm simply holding her accountable," she responded icily in saying, "You should mind your own business. The proper management of our homeowners' funds is my priority as a homeowner and homeowner. I have a right to expect every privilege." She cut me off. "You've got until this Friday to pay the fine. Then we'll proceed with the lien, and I'll watch my P's and Q's. And take care to shed unfounded accusations. Slander is no laughing matter," she said, with unmistakable ill will, and then hung up. What Karen didn't realize was that her threat had only breached a critical legal line. I called a friend working at the district attorney's office right away for counsel. What had started as a local grievance now became clear intimidation to silence regarding financial wrongdoing. 2 days after that, I received a notice that I was being sued by the HOA for defamation, with Karen's signature boldly written at the bottom. The same day, another member of our investigative committee had his vehicle towed from in front of his own house for an alleged parking infraction. The message was instructed to back away, or else rather than be intimidated. We moved quicker on it. We registered a complaint with the county and called for an emergency meeting of all homeowners. Karen and her allies on the board tried to stonewall it, but we had been able to get enough signatures to force the issue under state HOA law the night before the emergency meeting. Something utterly unexpected happened. A neighbor who resided across from the HOA office called me at roughly 11 p.m. "I think you should know that Karen and the treasurer are in the office and they are shredding documents," he whispered. I was walking my dog and saw them in the window. "There are trash bags full of paper." "Did you call the police?" I asked. "Already getting my car keys." "Yes, they are sending someone. But I thought you should know right away." I ran over to the office, arriving just as Karen and the treasurer were filling the last of some black trash bags into Karen's SUV. I parked my car to prevent her from exiting and approached with my cell phone camera rolling. "Working late, Karen?" I spoke in a measured voice. She nearly jumped out of her skin. "This is HOA business move." "Your car immediately," she demanded, trying to sound authoritative. While clearly upset, destroying documents related to a financial investigation is a criminal offense, I told her. And as luck would have it, I'm a certified forensic accountant who specializes in repairing devastated financial records. "So those bags will not do you any good?" "This is simply normal cleaning," the treasurer grumbled dishonestly at 11:30 p.m. "The previous evening before a session on finances," I asked. "I don't think so." Karen's face contorted with outrage. "You have no right here. I am the HOA president, and you will move your vehicle now. Or I'll call the police," she screamed. "Losing all self-control, that won't be necessary," came a voice from behind us. 2 officers walked over, looking over the trash bags with curiosity. We got a call reporting suspicious activity, mind asking us what's in the bags. Karen struggled to regain her composure. "This is a private matter about the homeowners association. This guy is bothering me and obstructing official business," she outlined, pointing at me accusingly. I greeted the officers. "I'm a forensic accountant, and we have reason to believe these people are destroying evidence of financial fraud." We'd already made a complaint to the county regarding misuse of HOA funds. The officers instructed us all to move away from the car while they assessed the situation. When they searched through the bags and found shredded financial documents, they called for backup. Karen remained insistent that she had done nothing wrong. When the detective arrived and began asking more pointed questions about the papers, as the night progressed into early morning, the story collapsed entirely. The police seized what was left of the papers and procured a warrant to search Karen's home computer. What they uncovered was incriminating phony invoices, proof of kickbacks and personal purchases paid for using HOA money. Karen was taken away in handcuffs on several charges, including fraud, embezzlement, and destruction of evidence. The initial investigation indicated she had misappropriated more than $200,000 during her 2-year tenure as HOA president. As she was led to the police car in handcuffs, the harsh reality of her predicament finally seemed to dawn on her, that it's all a misunderstanding. She asserted, her voice trembling as the bluffing charade collapsed at last. "I was only doing what past presidents had done. You can't do this to me." The judge would have none of it at her arraignment. Karen was facing up to 15 years in prison and fines over 3 times. The amount of what she had stolen, her bail was fixed at $500,000. When the judge read the potential sentence, Karen's flawless composure at last collapsed completely. She slumped in her chair, mascara streaming down her face as she sobbed. But I was only maintaining the rules.